fact that I remember that when every time that I've had my children, towards the end of my pregnancies, I sort of went out of sight because I'd had a bad experience once when I'd been out for a business development meeting and the young man said to me, your feet are swollen. You should be sitting down at a place. What are you doing up and down? I felt like an irresponsible person. So it was a case of me then choosing my fights. Do I really want to come out there and convince people that I'm okay, I'm not sick, I'm just pregnant? Hey, such a big deal. Or do I just want to get the work done and just, remove or avoid unwanted comments that would upset me? So, we still constantly face this challenge. But then when you see women then doing things like breastfeeding babies during State of the Nation, the US, and people are thinking, okay, yeah, it's not such a big deal anymore. Then, things obviously start to look better. But a 2011 report from the National Bureau of Statistics says that there's a significant increase by 44% in the enrollment of women in education. However, only about 25% are engaged in the labor force and only 14% in managerial and executive positions. And we primarily occupy non-executive positions. To promote this female participation, the Nigerian government in 2011 then came up with a policy that says you must have at least 35% of women in the workforce, which is in line with Goal 5 of the SDGs, of course, which is about promoting gender equality and empowerment of women. With all of this, soft and hard regulations, both in the workplace and in governance, there has been some progress, but obviously there still needs to be some work done, especially when it comes to the socio-cultural aspects. When we talk about this year's theme about each being equal, it can be interpreted in different ways. That's the International Women's Day theme. It can be interpreted in different ways. So who needs to be equal? Is it equal with men? Is it equal in certain positions? And when you look at that and you think about the matter of domestic violence, because the average man is still stronger than the average woman. And you think about the case of one Chuku who beat his wife mercilessly because she said she wanted to get a job. And you think about many women who basically truncated their life's ambitions because of a man who thought that they shouldn't do anything that they needed to do. You then know that there still needs to be work. The work still needs to be done beyond women being in that other room. So it's important to stress that a few Nigerian women, however, still succeed in the face of all of this. Now, if you looked in on this studio now, we're all women. I know that all women complete. I know that our constitution had once said that, or rather, the 1979 constitution, the Labour Constitution says that women should not work at night. I believe, was it in mining? So women cannot work underground. And then women apparently are not supposed to work at night. So if that is still illegal, then we should be looking out the window to be sure somebody doesn't look impressive. Like, they should come and catch me, whatever. So there have been powerful women, even from the past. Queen Ami, now Zaria, all of us knew about them. For those of us who went to fragile boarding schools, you would have heard of Queen Amina of Zaria. We know the Yalode, Efunsheto and Iwura of Ibadan, Moremi of Ife, Queen Emota and Idia of Benin Kingdom, and Omu Okwe of the Osomari Kingdom, and all of that. And then in more recent times, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, and all these notable women, especially the Aba women who fought for increased taxation in 1914. You should know that even though we've had challenges as women, there have also been opportunities. So are we also taking advantage of those opportunities? In the studio today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Adannaya Goodness Okoronkwo, and she's a London-trained human resources professional with 5 years of HR experience working across IT in multinationals, consulting, and NGOs. She's the founder of Startup HR Africa, which is a contemporary HR consulting company which helps startups build a great place to work for millennials with a strong workforce on culture and innovative people practices. I love the fact that we're talking about millennials, so we'll come back to that. She holds a first-class bachelor's degree in international relations from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a master's in human resources from Brunel Business School in London. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
She's blush. She's like, oh, women, we're not used to being praised. We're like, oh, she's this, she's that. I will be blush. When you're saying, he's this, he's that, and then his shoulders square up and like, check me out. And he's rubbing his Gucci like, baddest guy ever leave us. So own it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How was it coming to the show today?
It was good. Traffic was like nowhere. It felt like it was just...
Oh, really? Right?
Yeah,
okay, because I was rushing to the show because last week was crazy from what I heard. So I'm glad that it was sane.
Yeah.
So Lagos is working, isn't it?
Small.
Okay, so we're talking about women. Is it a career woman? Is she a threat or is she an untapped potential? What do you think?
I mean, everyone owns their career journey, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like career is a tool and you use it to how you want to use it. Mm-hmm. And for everyone who's in different careers and whatever that they're doing, I don't see career as a threat to anyone. It's how you use it. It's what you make of it. Really.
So when you say how you use it, so for instance, I had an interview today at my office and this young woman came in. I had invited her in because she has a young child. She has a baby. He's only about 4 or 5 months old, and it had been said in the youth group that I'm a trustee of that she wanted something flexible and all of that. And she came into the office with her baby.
Oh, nice.
By the time I arrived work, someone was helping her carry her baby. Now, in that case, what would you say? So you said, you just own it and everything. And she was concerned. Oh, she didn't want, at some point, we had the discussion around the fact that her baby at some point would need somebody to look after him whilst the mother tried to do something else. Wow. And she had talked about taking him to a creche or as opposed to getting a help. And, we talked about those nuances. A baby that's when he turned 6 months. A baby at 6 months old is too young to be able to say if he was maltreated in any way. Yeah. There's that to deal with. So what does she do then? So how does she own it without being judged, especially if she is from a family where, say, mother-in-law says, that's your wife, what is she, blah, blah, blah. And we all know that in today's world, both couples tend to have to contribute. It's very rare where you'd see a relationship where the man can look after everything, or in some cases, the woman can look after everything. Usually, there's need for that partnership. So how does she manage to own it as an aspiring career woman?
So for me, I would say that a lot of it depends on where you work. So I feel like a lot of us have different career experiences from where we work to maybe how we got into the organization. So if you work in an organization where, say, international organizations where they understand what flexible working means, they understand what a great culture means. They have a great culture towards people, whether you're single or married. When you get married, it doesn't really change a lot about what you do. It just changes how you do your work. So say you used to come in every day. When you get married and you have your kids, you can work from home. So I remember when I was at Microsoft and my boss had her baby. She brought the baby to work almost maybe from 6 months old. I can't remember now. But we literally all watched that baby grow. And it didn't stop. It wasn't.
So there was a care center for the baby.
Yeah. So there was a care center for the baby. We have this baby daycare in the office, and we've had like over 6 children come in there, like as they give birth. Their mothers are able to bring them to work with their nannies, sometimes with their mothers. And you see, you cannot take away that part of a woman's life, right? So I read a quote sometime that said, if you're a woman and you're striving to be equal to a man, you lack ambition. you're a woman, you're a woman. There's nothing you can do about
Absolutely.
it. Right? So
physiologically, you're
yeah,
different.
so exactly. So your differences are part of who you are. So the way that you respond to work when you give birth to children will be different. I feel like organizations who don't embrace this, it's either they're not brave enough or they're just being selfish. So you have to make way for the woman to adjust the way that she works, because a lot has changed in her life. Is she still valuable to the company? Yes. Can she still do her work? Yes. Does she have to come in every day? No. So if you can move around the things that she has to do. So the lady who came in today, did she have to come in? If she had a meeting, I could come into the office, do my meetings, and go back home and work from home. A lot of us do jobs in the office that we can do sitting in the comfort of our
Yes,
home.
but you know the challenge that employees have is responsibility, actually, because I have been a beneficiary of flexible work. When I worked in the UK, literally, when I saw the Brunel, I was like, oh, I wanted to go there, but then it was too far away from where I lived. And so I had registered, and I came back to Queen Mary, which is an equally great school, Queen Mary University of London. And I remember that, I had to do this, and it was very useful for me to do that. So it's something that I'm open to. But you find that sometimes people take that opportunity to just literally do nothing at home. So I think that's probably the challenge. Not probably, that's a lot of the challenge. And there's also the fact that many people are used to a certain thing and are afraid of change. And so when you talked about being brave, that just struck me, because I know that this is a conversation that I've had with people in the past, and I say, okay, what's the big deal about a woman coming into the office? But sometimes it's from the women, sometimes it's from
the organization.
It's from the organization or the men at the top of the business. So some women had bad experiences as younger people, and so they think this is how it's always been, so it must remain this way. And people think that you should separate work from your personal life.
Impossible.
I love the confidence with which she says impossible. Yeah, so, they're separated. So you think, what's the baby doing here? So they're like, wow, how could this happen? And so it's good that we have these conversations and that women not feel bad about the fact that their lives change, their lives need to change. And employers don't need to worry about employing women because, some people say, oh, when I'm like I've said, my own experience, when you're pregnant, do people think that they can work with you and all of that?
And again, I think that's why I mentioned that it depends on when you start your career, where you work. People at Google, some of them don't have these issues. People at different multinational organizations, some of them don't have these issues. But you see that, like you said, local context comes to play a lot when these things are maybe one-man business, people who are just saying, oh, you're the only one in this role, how can you go away? Which is true, right?
Even in banks,
banking, exactly, banking. I did an interview with certain women in Deloitte a couple of months ago, because I do focus group sessions, and I asked them this question about, so some of them have been there 10 years, 12 years, and they couldn't have been there if there were no policies that helped them transition in those times where they needed it.
All right, so we'll take a quick break. I'm going to remind you the numbers to call when we return. We'll be right back on the Good Citizen Radio Show.
The Aspire Coronation Trust, ACT Foundation, is a non-profit organization established to help local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address the challenges and associated vulnerabilities across Africa. Our interventions are focused on 4 key areas, which are health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference. So, let's come together to make the positive social impact we desire in our world.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Good Citizen Radio Show. You've been listening to Adannaya and I talk about women in the workplace. To join this conversation, you can call 0700 923 93 93. Again, it's 0700 923 923 93. Now, Adannaya, we're talking about local content and flexibility, and you talked about some of the big companies and what they're doing. And yes, I've met a partner recently of one of the big fours who said, oh, I think she had 4 children as well, and she's a partner, and her children she had them during the course of her career and everything. So somehow she's managed to do that. And quite a number of businesses are starting to make provision for women to be able to grow within those organizations.
Absolutely.
So in this case now, let's look at it and let's look at it from the home front as well. So we have a call. Hello? Hello?
Oh, good evening.
Hi, Ndidi. Good evening. I have your voice recorded. How are you today?
Yeah, I missed you last week, but you're welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ndidi.
Okay. Adannaya Goodness Okoronkwo. Good evening.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Good evening.
So, Ndidi, what's your contribution today?
Yes, I wanted you to laugh. I got that. God bless you.
Amen.
See, the topic of today is quite interesting. You know, she was talking, I was just thinking about there are some men whose wives are actually career women, but because they got married to that kind of husband that doesn't want the wife to work, doesn't want the wife to be a career woman. And the woman is sad being her love is to be a career woman. And the husband has stopped her from being a career woman, seeing her as a threat to him. And wanting her to stay back at home. And the woman is sad at home. Even though she's doing something, she doesn't really feel fulfilled about what her fulfillment is to be a career woman. In that kind of situation, how does the woman get back to that level of becoming joyful, of becoming herself once again? Thank you.
Thank you, Ndidi.
Thank you. This one is deep.
It's very deep. Okay, so we lost a second call. Go on then.
So I'll just quickly say that I understand that this happens a lot. So it's not even just it's not a peculiar case. It happens to a lot of people. But what I would say is, again, you can't even say some men will start off saying, "Oh, baby, don't worry, I'll support you when we get married. You can do your work." And 2 years into the marriage, they're saying, "Okay, you have to stop working." Now, one thing is, how does this conversation happen? Are there reasons why this is happening? And if the woman is not happy to say, so some men are considerate and they have a good conversation about this thing and say, "Okay, babe, let's talk about this. Can you keep working? Can we manage this?" So one thing is how this conversation happens and how considerate they are in the conversation. The two is I feel like people.
Okay, we have another caller, Dana. Can we take
Okay.
that? Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hi. Good evening. What's your name, please?
My name is Aditola.
Hi, Adetola. Why did you hesitate? Go on, Karen. What's your contribution to the show?
So I just wanted to talk about what my own personal experience is.
Okay.
Experience has been, and I mean.
Okay. Please speak up, Adetola.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. I said I wanted to speak a bit about what my own personal experience was like and
Okay.
how to handle it, you know, when it does occur in the future. Because so I'm married and I have a kid, but of course I want to have more children.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that at the time when, so I had worked for a number of years before I had my kids, and I realized that, you know, the kind of cooperation I expected I would get, I did not get it. So I had traveled to have my child, and when I got back, I looked forward, you know, because of the time lapse and everything. I found out that my 3-month maternity leave wouldn't be enough, and I needed
More time.
So I had talked to my superior, saying, "I understand that, you know, I may need to come in for meetings. I don't have a problem with that, but give me this 1 month and let me settle in and get the nanny and all." And my boss literally told me in little or no words that I was taking things for granted. I was taking the work for granted, and literally told me to choose between my family and my job. And then as an afterthought said, "Okay, so call me in 2 days' time." Now, he then realized that I had 2 weeks outstanding leave from the previous year. And that was all she gave me.
Interesting.
She gave you a woman.
Yes. So it seems to me, is it that when women get older,
I'm happy
they
that.
forget what it's like to go through that process? Or they just take for granted the fact that, I mean, this particular person I'm talking about, I understand that when she was raising her children, once they're done from school, she's closed.
Really?
Just forgotten,
Right.
It's so convenient.
Mm.
Just have forgotten that as a woman, and then it's more difficult now because then there were more opportunities. There were lots of things you could do. Then the African woman of that time African man would take the responsibility for the family. But now
Yes.
it's not to work.
Everybody has to work.
Your career.
Have to contribute your quota.
In a situation like that, how do you deal with it?
Well, okay, thank you very much for that contribution. So it ended almost like a question, and it was very much like Ndidi's.
Okay, we have a caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Michelle. I would like to share my experience. It's not similar to the last caller.
Okay, Michelle. Thank you for calling the Good Citizen Radio Show. Go on then.
Yeah, so I'm a career woman, and I've been working for some years. When I had my first child, there was actually a time that was a life-changing experience when my child was really sick. And they told me I have to come to work. And I saw that my child deserved better, and I wasn't going to allow that to go on. So I quit because it was really important to me. I thought, well, if I put so much work, I've worked for a long time, and my child is sick, and this woman is telling I have to choose between going to take care of a sick child and doing the work that could be delegated to someone else that isn't only me that could do it.
All right. I got it.
I think a decision, and I'm better for it because where I work now, there's a crash, like there's strict work-life balance, and I think I'm better for it.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for that contribution. So we have just a few minutes left, and if you just wrap that up.
I'll quickly just say something to all three questions.
Adannaya.
And it goes to people just taking their work too seriously over their lives. Like, you need to be able to value your life more than your work. I feel like we put too much emphasis on our career. What if that company shuts down? Are you going to die? So if you always have to choose between your work and your family, I feel like we end up choosing our families. So whether it's your husband asking you to choose or your boss asking you to choose, you always have to make that mental note that my family is more important to me, my life is more important to me, my kids are more important to me.
But do you think this is also applicable to men in the career?
Yeah, it's difficult that we always have
men
to
don't have
choose.
to make that choice.
Sometimes they do, but it's hard that we have to choose as women sometimes. But when you have to make that choice, I feel like you should already decide in your head that, like, a lot of companies just make it difficult for women. I feel like we shouldn't always take that. People feel like they don't have options. You always have an option. Look at what she said. When she left, she got something better. We should always know that once you've developed yourself, built up yourself, you can add value to organizations. If you have to leave. Something else will come up, and it will push you to even do better. So it's a loss to the organization if they can't grow up and be flexible to women who have those peculiar needs.
Okay. Thank you, Adannaya. So I think that a couple of things. I think that we do not have, in this part of the world, we do not have the flexibility of, I don't know whether to say infrastructure to support the things that we want. So it becomes a lot more expensive to establish a process.
I feel like the infrastructure.
So, for instance, if you were in an advanced country, getting a loan to set up, many businesses that start up take big amounts of loan to set up a business. They take up a large space. There's enough space for everything that you need to do, a creche and everything. If you're a smaller business in this part of the world, you barely have space for a room. Where are you going to put the creche? That's one. The second thing is there's also opportunity for flexible working in advanced countries. Yeah. Okay. And we don't have that here. So they're able to fill up space. I know that when I was a student, I found most of the jobs that I did were temporary positions. And I was literally just sitting in for somebody who went on maternity leave and all of that. So that's opportunity for learning for businesses here. So you have to understand that. I think that there's need for schooling. I think that some businesses have not thought about it. I think that if they had the right sort of support, that they would be able to do it. For instance, they may have...
know what we're doing. For instance, you know that the coronavirus has made a lot of companies say, oh, you can work from home, you can join meetings online, you can do this. These are things we know that you would do before now.
Right, but they didn't do it. So there's a bit of both sides. There's a bit of responsibility from the employer, and there's some responsibility from the staff, because staff as well can go home and just start faffing around, and business is not done.
Give people responsibilities, give them KPIs. Don't want to see me every day. Like, we have a presenteeism problem, not absenteeism.
Right.
You just want to see people sit on their desk, do nothing. So give people responsibilities, give them KPIs. If you fire me because I didn't do my job, that's easy. Don't fire me because I didn't come to work.
Okay, so I guess that's another thing. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions here as well. So people in the Western world get KPIs, you don't do it,
Yes,
and you're out.
you're
But here
out.
there's a lot of sorry. So I guess that's it. So everybody needs to listen and just literally step up to the plate. If you're a business, if you're a woman, whoever you are, you just need to be responsible. And that's why we're here today having this show about responsibility. We're all leaders in whatever situations we find ourselves. Thank you so much,
Thank
Adannaya.
you.
It was
Thank
a very interesting conversation. Thank you to our callers, Ndidi, Michelle, and Tolulokbe, I think it was. So
Sorry, but thank you for
but
calling.
thank you so much for calling. You've been listening to the Good Citizen Radio Show. You can continue this conversation on social media at Good Citizen NG, at Good Citizen NG. We're here again next week at 8 o'clock on Inspiration FM 92.3. Thank you and have yourselves a great weekend. Until next week, it's Bekeme. Bye-bye.